Hi everyone, it's Jaymie here. I'm a soulful intuitive coach and healer. I work with spiritual nonconformists in designing your audacious dreams, whatever that looks like for you. Particularly, I love working with clients who are looking for a different way, a wildly different way to do things in a way that really feels aligned to you because a lot of the conventional methods don't work. And a powerful tool to really accessing what that is to really understand your mindset, your habits, what works for you, really connect to your feelings and desire, and getting clarity and having a deeper understanding of that. One of the ways that I absolutely love to do that is to goal set in a fun, creative way that sort of frees you from a lot of the linear strategic stuff while still getting a lot of the benefits of it. This is something that I absolutely love, love, love to do during Mercury retrograde. This is a time that is best suited for looking inward, reevaluating, and really exploring what works, what doesn't, how you want to shift things, and just really observing and understanding your habits, exploring any limiting beliefs or accessing some of the internalized truths and stuff that you picked up from other people, and identifying the ways that you can move through it that's going to be the most effective for you. It's just this amazing time where the questions that you search just surface more readily. And because of that, I've actually dedicated my quarterly annual reviews around Mercury retrograde. I really love doing this because Mercury retrograde happens about 4 times a month. I'm sorry, not 4 times a month. 3 or 4 times a year for about 3 weeks in 3 week increments, about every 3 months. So it's the perfect way to take advantage of the astrological benefits and implement the practices that some of the most successful people and businesses do. Because, so much has changed since New Year's, right? And so it's really important to check in to say, okay, has this been working? What hasn't? And just really just observing what's been going on in your life. And I think one of the big things is I feel like there's sort of this fear around goal setting because there's this idea that it's really heavy, it has to be really kind of bland, and I don't agree with that at all. And I think something that I talked about a little bit in my last video, go ahead and check that out so that you can really kind of elaborate. Communication also goes awry on Mercury retrograde, and I think that it's happening because I'm going to continue to jump on here every Tuesday because I absolutely love this group and I don't usually mumble this much. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yes, so one of the things is I think experimenting and really exploring what works for you is absolutely huge, and I gave some pointers in the video last week that touched on it, and so go ahead and check that out. Today, I thought I'd give you guys some specific examples, and I wanted to share with you why this is my philosophy. I'm all about implementing mind-numbingly easy and fun strategies because when you do that, you don't push up against the resistance or the excuse or the reason why you don't want to do something. You let go of all of that, and it just shows up in your face. And when you start things off in a really simple way, you aren't distracted from all the other factors that go into it. So when you're goal setting, you could actually think of other things at the same time. And it's my way of practicing minimum effort, maximum results. Instead of being overwhelmed, if you're watching this video, if you're in this group, you're obviously passionate about your self-growth and really understanding your habits, your mindset, observing yourself. These are all huge things and an important part of goal setting. And the simpler the process is, the more you're going to be receptive to some of the things that come up, like the pushbacks. So I wanted to just share with you the simplest way. It's so elementary simple that it's either going to get you to do it right away, or you're going to be like, oh, it's too easy, I'm not going to do it. But the most successful businesses are automated, and I think that it's so important to develop the habit of getting used to things becoming simple as a daily part of your practice so that you can get more out of the things that you do. And you can be more strategic. And remember, you can always layer onto things as well, right? So I like to get a sheet of paper. This is something that I got from Amazon that I think is super, super pretty. And I start from the most basic level. Rather than someone tell me the best way to start goal setting, I want to know how I think, how I practice, how I process information, and what method I'm most receptive to by starting with a blank canvas, something that's aesthetically pleasing because it makes me want to do it. And then I use Post-its, and I literally just write down whatever my goals are, and I put them on here. This is great for anyone who feels intimidated, anyone who feels who experiences a commitment phobe, which comes up a lot when you start goal setting. You're just like, oh my God, what if I can't do this? You know, like fitness is something that I had a hard time really connecting to. So I had like this fear of even just writing it down. And the thing is, just because you write something down doesn't mean that it's the end of the world if you don't achieve it. You know, if you don't write it down, it doesn't mean like anything either. It's just learning to become comfortable and understanding and observing how you feel, how connected and aligned you feel to your goals. Are there any discomfort that show up? What does that mean? You know, just really writing down these goals will help you identify where these limiting beliefs are. You might even realize that something came up as a child, some insecurity, whatever that is. Go ahead and write it down and start to observe what you start writing down, what your thought processes are, what things are you prioritizing. If you like to have some idea instead of just openly coming up with whatever comes to mind, I like focusing on mind, body, and soul just to get you started. Another thing I really enjoy doing is to just start free writing goals that I'm interested in. And it allows you to kind of reflect where your priorities are. In some areas, you may put greater focus than others. Some people will come up with a lot of ideas and visions that they want to do, but they're not necessarily things that are going to be the most valuable to do right now. Maybe they're things down the line, you know? For example, I live in downtown Los Angeles in a beautiful studio. Down the line, I want to have kids and I want to be married and I want to have that life. But right now, that's not the goal that I want. And if my focus is more in that future that doesn't resonate with what I want to do right now, that shows me where my mindset is at, where my focus is at, right? So it's just really an interesting way to gauge how strategic and purposeful and relevant your information is to what's going on now and what it is that you want. For me personally, when I start goal setting, I notice that the things that I prioritize and the things that I say that I want to do are things I want to do, but they're not the ones that I'm initially interested in. It's almost like I need to first express these safe goals, and then once I do that, I start to express the goals that I'm truly passionate about that scare me. Whereas I know other people, they follow this method and it's so vital to trust your first intuition before your first instincts and your intuition before you start overthinking it. And so you get to really experiment where your headspace, your energy, and mindset is at. It's so interesting. So I highly just recommend writing these things down and getting clear about what you select, things of that nature. When I first started goal setting, I realized that I had this story in my mind that I'm a failure and I'm not going to be successful at achieving my goals. And in order to keep that story alive based on an old program, I was selecting goals that I wasn't realistically aligned to achieve, so that when it came time to executing them, I didn't do that. And I realized it was my process that was flawed. And the thing to remember is we have so many goals that we want to achieve, and we don't necessarily write all of them down. And so just because you say that you want to achieve A, B, and C goals and you didn't for this week or whenever you set it up for, but you achieve D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, you're still accomplishing things. So I think it's really important to give yourself credit and to be loving and accepting and observe what did you accomplish, rather than focusing on what you didn't accomplish. Because the things that you accomplished, there's a reason behind that. There's a drive. Was there something that you liked about it? Was there something that it delivered to you? What made it easy for you to accomplish those goals, whether you set out to do them or not for that particular week? How can you implement those elements that made you achieve those goals so that you can implement the ones that you are actually interested in? By first really exploring the things that you're saying you want to do. Is it really something you want to do? for the longest. I've thought that there's a specific memoir I thought I wanted to write, and I realized I don't. And so that was really freeing for me. So I cannot recommend to you enough the power of self-experimenting. To get a sheet of paper, just start off mind-numbingly simple, put these Post-its on, and that way, you don't have to deal with that feeling of it's permanent. You can adjust them along the way. You can add the extra goals on the back here. You can place it on your wall somewhere where you can see it so that it becomes a daily reminder. And as you do this, you may realize that, you know what? Some of the goals that you set might have been too ambitious, and maybe you need to scale back. Maybe you need to do something a little bit more to keep you stimulated. I personally do really well working on 3 different goals at a time. One of my friends, she sets it up in her mind as having one big goal and then having mini goals throughout the year. We became accountability partners for a fitness program, and for me, it felt really good to implement all the other areas of my life, my home, my business, my personal life, my social life, things like that. But for her, she was like, okay, this fitness is my goal. And she realized how much she had to wake up early, which, meant that she had to reflect on her work schedule and so many other things. So to her, having one goal is really overwhelming not overwhelming, but getting more than that was going to be really overwhelming. So she realized the setup was going to be more beneficial for her by minimizing it. Whereas me, I like to switch gears, and so I implement those things so that I'm actually able to switch gears when I feel like it. Everyone is different. It's really about connecting to what really resonates with you. In addition to that, I think it's so much more than just writing out our goals, because it can be great to be clear on what it is that we want, but I think what's even more important is understanding why we want it, why we haven't achieved it, what are some of the things that are coming up, and really understanding the mindset and the energy behind that. This is an amazing time during Mercury retrograde, so I highly encourage you guys to come up with the simplest ways for you to do things. And honestly, what I love doing is identifying some of the most patterned habits that you have in your life. The things that you want to achieve that you haven't achieved, what keeps showing up? Are you not making money after a certain point? Are you after 3 weeks crashing? Or, is there a certain habit where you go weak on, or your stamina only lasts so long, or whatever that case is? Really observe it in a non-judgmental way and understand why it's happening, what's going on as it happens. So really track and observe what's going on, and ask yourself, where that's coming from. If there are things that you want to do and you're discouraged to do it after committing to it, it's because you're trying to avoid a certain feeling or a pain that gets triggered by doing that. What is that? How can you move through it? How can you clear that? How can you transmute that energy? This is a phenomenal time to really explore that. So I recommend writing your goals down and then saying, okay, have I achieved this? What am I doing to achieve this? What can I implement to achieve this? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Why hasn't it worked? What am I protecting myself from? What am I avoiding as a result of, what am I avoiding from this? And really experiment with that, because once you do that, you're going to be able to move through things. It's easy to come up with goals, but really understanding your inner workings, the things that you've internalized that come up, that's where the real work is. And I think that that's so absolutely important. So I really encourage you to take the time to explore all of this. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and I'm looking forward to watching the rest of your videos. Bye, everyone!